They were just 6 and 9, two sisters full of life, laughter, and trust. On May 2nd, 2001, Mary Faith and Liberty Battaglia were dropped off by their mother for what should have been a simple dinner with their dad. This is Crime Chronicle, where we review crime cases. Kindly subscribe if you haven't. Instead, they entered his deep Elm loft in Dallas and never came back out. Within minutes, he made a devastating move, placing a phone on speaker so their mother, Mary Jean, would hear every moment. Mary Faith, her voice trembling, was forced to ask, "Mommy, why do you want Daddy to go to jail?" Then came her final words, "No, Daddy, please don't," followed by a room full of gunfire. Mary struck 3 times, Liberty 5. After killing them, he didn't flee in panic. He calmly left a voicemail in their bedroom. "Good night, my little babies. You were very brave girls." And then walked casually into a tattoo parlor to mark their roses on his arm. What could transform a father's love into calculated violence? And how did he carry out such an act, then memorialize it in ink? On the other end of that call, their mother listened, frozen, helpless, as her daughters were taken. This is a story of trust betrayed, innocence extinguished, and a family shattered forever. This is Mary Faith Battaglia, age 10, an aspiring artist who loved drawing and horseback riding. Beside her, Liberty May, just 6, shy but bright, loved school and stories. On May 2nd, 2001, these sisters were dropped off at their mother's Dallas home, ready for an evening with their father. Their parents had been through a bitter separation and a custody dispute, one marked by escalating tension. Mary Jean, their mother, had filed for divorce after enduring verbal abuse and physical violence. Battaglia had assaulted not only her, but also his first wife, sending both to the hospital. Despite this violent past, he continued to see the girls regularly, visiting under a court-supervised schedule. But beneath a facade of fatherly care lay a threat no mother could ignore. Battaglia had been harassing and threatening Mary Jean, triggering concerns he might soon lose his privileges. That night at 6 p.m. in his deep Elm loft, a routine dinner ended in horror. 2 innocent children, less than 10 miles from home, became the victims of an unthinkable act. This wasn't a chance tragedy. This was personal. What breaking point led a father to transform a family visit into their final moments together? For the Battaglia girls, life with their father wasn't all tension. On weekends, they'd visit his deep Elm loft, greeted with art supplies and simple joys. Mary Faith, bright and creative, would capture the world in sketches. Liberty, quiet and sweet, would read aloud from her treasured storybooks at the dinner table. On the surface, it seemed like a father-daughter bond. But underneath, there were warnings. John Battaglia wasn't a stranger to violence. His first wife, Michelle Getty, testified he'd physically assaulted her multiple times, breaking her nose, cornering her, even punching strangers who crossed him. In 1999, days before Christmas, he attacked Mary Jean in front of the girls. He ended up on probation with a protective order banning contact with her. Even after the divorce in August 2000, the control didn't stop. Mary Jean filed for Battaglia's parole to be revoked. He'd been harassing her and violating probation. He texted and called obsessively. He threatened, "I'll kill you." He stalked her social media, and he promised revenge if he lost access to the girls. Bits of this surfaced in court. Mary Jean's tearful testimony, prosecutors' warning of his instability. Yet, despite these red flags, he retained unsupervised visitation rights. On May 2nd, 2001, he pulled up to Mary Jean's Highland Park home. The girls clambered into his car, excited for dinner. What they didn't know was that their mother's voice would soon be their only lifeline. The trip was short, just 10 minutes to the loft they'd come to think of as Dad's place. But as the sun set over downtown Dallas, a dark energy followed him there. What she didn't see, what no one did, was how far he was prepared to take his fury. On May 2nd, 2001, around 6 p.m., John Battaglia arrived at Mary Jean's home in Highland Park under the pretense of a family meal. The atmosphere was ordinary, and so was his tone when he greeted her. He knocked on the door. Mary Jean handed over the girls, smiling as they ran into his arms. But the routine shattered as soon as the door closed behind them. Inside that loft, everything turned. Neighbor Patricia Simmons would later say she heard raised voices. Had it been a domestic dispute? Or something else? Just moments later, other neighbors reported loud gunshots, the unmistakable sounds of trauma echoing through the evening air. In the courtyard below, one witness told police they heard shouting, like a frantic argument, immediately followed by 3 distinct bangs. Another swore it was a single crash, then rapid fire. These accounts would vary, but none could deny the horror unfolding above. From Mary Jean's phone, still connected on speaker. "No, Daddy, please don't." Mary Faith's voice cracked, as a burst of gunfire drowned out everything else. When the barrage stopped, a horrifying quiet settled, alive, then gone. Mary Jean terminated the phone call. She pressed 911. "Operator, 911, what's your emergency?" Mary Jean, "Choke, my husband, he shot our daughters. He shot them in the loft. Please send help." Her voice faltered, tears audible. She whispered their names, Faith, Liberty, please. In mere seconds, police raced to the scene. Inside, officers found both girls. Mary Faith lay motionless on the floor, 3 bullet wounds to her torso. Liberty, 5. No weapon was found at first. Battaglia had tossed it away. He remained inside, in the middle of the living room, wounded but eerily composed. The ambiguity of what happened before the shots fell would linger. Was there an argument? Or did he strike without warning? As responders cuffed him, Mary Jean stood helpless outside. She'd already borne witness to the unthinkable, by hearing when she could not see. At that moment, Mary Faith and Liberty were gone. On the tape of her 911 call, her voice pierces even now. They were so young, they didn't deserve this. This was no tragic accident. It was a calculated act, born of rage and revenge. Within minutes, detectives descended on the deep elm loft. They discovered gunshots fired from inside, the weapon still clutched in Battaglia's hand. Ballistics confirmed it was his gun. He'd fired all rounds himself. Forensic experts matched the shell casings and bullets directly to the father's pistol. Their fingerprints and gloves were bagged and analyzed. No third-party presence. This was a single-actor crime scene. Investigators used fingerprint and touch DNA techniques on the gun and magazine. Every trace pointed to Battaglia himself. More chilling, a voicemail left in the girl's bedroom after the murders. His voice calm, composed, almost boasting. Initial theories pointed to mental illness, depression, bipolar, walking a fine line of sanity. Yet detectives saw something clearer: revenge. This was an act born of anger, not psychosis. Battaglia himself admitted as much during the phone call, calmly stating, "I shot them," after Mary Jean pleaded on the line. He even taunted her with, "Merry fucking Christmas," referencing his prior Christmas assault, a personal attack disguised as family vengeance. Battaglia's legal team attempted to shift blame, citing therapy failures, character witnesses, mental health struggles. Custody documents became a battlefield, but every legal defense crumbled under forensic evidence and motive. The protective order he'd violated, the text messages with threats, these painted a man consumed by rage and control. Booked as an emergency call transcript, Mary Jean's recording captured it all. "Faith, ask your mother why she wants Daddy to go to jail." Then, through the gunfire, "I shot them," his own confession before he dropped the line. Battaglia was arrested, his weapon in hand, tattooed, roses visible. He offered no denial. But what he did next would stun even the arresting officers. The truth had always been buried in fragments, arguments, court papers, therapy transcripts. But what investigators discovered next wasn't a confession in the traditional sense. It was something colder, something calculated. Just moments before the final shot rang out, he picked up the phone and called their mother. Mary Jean Pearl answered the call, not knowing she was about to hear the final moments of her daughter's lives. Battaglia's voice was steady. Ask your daughter Faith what she just said. In the background, Faith, just 10 years old, tried to speak. Then, the sound that would forever shatter Mary Jean's world. Gunshots. 2. Then silence. On that call, Battaglia delivered his final message to the woman he once claimed to love. I killed them because you always win. This wasn't spontaneous. It wasn't confusion. It was revenge, deliberate, weaponized vengeance, carried out through the murder of his own children, designed specifically to inflict maximum suffering on their mother. Psychiatrists would later call it a textbook case of malignant narcissism. A man whose ego was so wounded he could not bear to lose control of his children, of his image, or of his ex-wife's life. But even among seasoned detectives, this wasn't just an act of control. He didn't just want to silence them. He wanted her to hear it. Was this just revenge? Or was something even darker at work? By the time John Battaglia stood trial, the facts were no longer in question. He admitted what he had done. The question now was why. The prosecution called it exactly what it was: calculated, vengeful murder. Not a man who snapped, a man who planned. He executed his daughters to punish his ex-wife. This was his final act of control. The defense leaned heavily on mental health. Diagnoses were introduced: bipolar disorder, depression, unresolved trauma. But the jury wasn't swayed. After weeks of testimony, the jury returned with a unanimous decision. John Battaglia was guilty of capital murder. He was sentenced to death. For years, Battaglia appealed the sentence. In 2018, 17 years after the murders, his time finally ran out. On February 1st, 2018, John Battaglia was executed by lethal injection. His last words? Well, hi Mary Jean. I'll see y'all later. Bye. But for Mary Jean Pearl, the sentence didn't end the pain. She had already lost what mattered most. Her life, once public, now withdrawn, became a maze of locked doors, security cameras, and recurring nightmares. The community that once stood by in horror never forgot. A scholarship was created in the girls' names. Their school held vigils every May. But there was always a question no verdict could answer. Could this have been stopped? Mary Jean had warned the courts. She had called the police. She told the system he was dangerous. And still, he got unsupervised visitation. In her grief, Mary Jean became a voice for change. She pushed for stricter custody laws in cases involving abuse. And she never stopped saying their names. Mary Faith, Liberty May. Mary Faith loved horses. Liberty May adored school. Their futures were full of light, until one man's darkness took it all away. The signs were there. There were police reports, custody battles, direct threats. I'll kill you. He said it, and the system heard it, but let him in anyway. So we have to ask, was this preventable? Could tighter custody protections, better domestic violence response systems, mental health screenings, have saved 2 young girls from an unspeakable fate? Battaglia's final words were meant to taunt, not to repent. This wasn't sudden. It was planned revenge through children against the woman he couldn't control. If someone tells you they're dangerous, believe them, because the next time, you might not get to warn anyone else. What role does untreated mental illness play in domestic violence? What are the responsibilities of the courts when someone shows every warning sign, but still gets a key to the front door? This case isn't just about one man's decision. It's about the holes in the system that let him make it. 2 daughters, shot by their father, while their mother listened on the phone. What do you think could have stopped this? Was this a failure of the courts, or a calculated act no system could have seen coming? Let us know your thoughts below. And if you believe no family should ever face this again, share this video to spread awareness. Bell subscribe for more True Crime Chronicle documentaries every week. Loudspeaker comment your thoughts.